Evening, everyone. For those of you who don't know us, so Kim Philpott's down the back there. Stand up, Kim. So those who don't know Kim, so Kim's from Microsoft, and I'm from Melbourne App Development. So we organised this, and I wanted to make a special shout out to Lachlan Gordon, who's been helping us with our audio, and he's going to join our organisation team. So you'll see a lot more of him in the future. And Melbourne App Development, so the two sponsors are Melbourne App Development and Microsoft. So Microsoft gives this venue, and Melbourne App Development, we give the pizzas. Just a couple of announcements. So there's an Android Performance Challenge coming up in August. That's the link. We'll post this pack on the Meetup page, so you can grab that link for those interested. We also have the .NET conference. So I think this is organised by Microsoft and it aligns with their announcement period. It's a 2-day online conference, so feel free to join that. And without any further ado, I'm going to introduce Clinton Rocksmith, who is a Xamarin Android legend. He's actually an Android legend, and no, he's not. No, he's an original gangster of the Melbourne Xamarin Meetup. So he and Kim started this meetup, and he suckered me in to take it over. And an MVVM superstar. Where did you get this stuff from, Kim? Over to you. Over to you, Clint.
Oh, testing 1, 2. Yeah, that's working. Okay, great. Hi, everyone. Thanks for that rousing... I have standards. I need to be met. Hi, my name's Clinton. As you can see, I don't have glasses anymore because I left them on the train. I have lots and lots of kids. I've got 4 daughters. You know, some of you know me personally, and some of you, thankfully, don't know me personally. So today, what we're going to do is talk through... I don't need that anymore. I hate it when the screens are like this because I can't figure out which way it goes. Oh, where we discuss, here we go. Xamarin Forms to Xamarin Native, the hows, whens and whys of business decisions and technical implications. That's the best way I could say, how do we make a Xamarin Forms app a Xamarin Native app and start migrating away from Xamarin Forms. So what we'll discuss is how come not to do Xamarin Forms, which is a really good question. The choice between Xamarin Native and true native, like not React Native, but actual native, like Kotlin and Swift. We'll talk about Objective-C or Java. Those languages are old. And then we'll do a little bit of code, so actually just new up a whole new solution, and we'll go through a real-world example, show you how it's done. Is that cool? Yeah. Yay. All right, there we go. So, and who the F am I? Well, my name is Clinton Rocksmith, of course. I've been working with Xamarin since about 2012, 2013. I can't quite remember when exactly, because I'm getting old. I code natively in Swift and in Kotlin, and I've worked in many startups, almost a different one every year. So that therefore I've gone through the hows, whens and whys of varying startups, and mainly here in Melbourne, I have a pretty good visibility of this topic. And I'm currently the team lead and tech lead for the Schedulo mobile team in Brisbane, and we're hiring. It's a really good team, great building, desks go up and down, there's fridges full of Coca-Cola and snacks, and it's just like Silicon Valley, except it's in Brisbane. Right. So, first question. This might actually affect a couple of people who are sitting in the audience because they are intimate with these sorts of solutions that we've dealt with. In other words, they worked on them with me. So how come no to Xamarin Forms? Isn't Xamarin Forms the holy grail of a true single code base for the UI all the way through to the business logic? Well, yes and no. What are the reasons that it's not? Well, Xamarin isn't cool anymore. You know, Microsoft doesn't promote it as much as they used to when it wasn't, with Microsoft. We had teams that were out there selling Xamarin licenses. Everyone was motivated. Do you remember those days? Oh, I remember those days. Still didn't get a refund from my licenses, but that's okay.
Remember the license price, fondly?
It was a good time. It was a good time. Another reason, Xamarin Forms breaks with every release. Does everyone remember just getting up to version 4 and FF image wasn't loading with Xamarin Android? And I won't use his real name, Pure Ween. Shane knew she stuffed up something. Had to wait for another release, but that's all right. And of course, the .NET standard, everything broke, everything got fixed, everything migrated. Just be patient, we'll get there, we'll get there. The developers that were hired, they didn't architect it properly. I've built the Xamarin Forms application and now I can't get the new feature in because, well, it wasn't architected properly. This has nothing to do with you guys, by the way. This is another solution that was written by people who did Unity 3D. They can't find developers with the proper skills. This is a big one. How do you find people who do Xamarin Forms and do it really well and know it, right? Know it. Confidence in Xamarin Forms, long terms. What's the exit strategy? What happens if it doesn't get promoted anymore? What if it just becomes sunsetted like Silverlight or anything else along those lines? Google's very good at this. I just read that Google's giving up on tablets. I mean, that's pretty big. There you go. I think manufacturing tablets, but still. There's someone in the office that's always complaining about the app. Someone in marketing or something like that saying, oh, it's Xamarin Forms. So Xamarin Forms becomes the whipping boy. Maybe it's all of the above. Or maybe you're updating the UI, rebuilding the app, so now's the perfect time to go native. And let's do a rewrite. That's kind of the bigger one. If you're not redoing the UI design, stay with Xamarin Forms. You'll kill your app and the ability for the business to provide value to the users in a rapid fashion. That is the tag, the takeaway. If you're currently doing Xamarin Forms and you're not completely redesigning the UI, stay with Xamarin Forms and work on what you currently have and improve it. And you'll deliver value to your customers rapidly. The next week, the week after that. Oh, we'll just fix this up. Nice little bug fix. Builds confidence in the business and in the platform. Here's a key one. Forget the tech and focus on the customer. It's easier to improve a Xamarin Forms application a piece at a time. You're able to deliver incremental, meaningful updates in weeks and months. And Xamarin Forms is always getting better. So how do you also do that? Make sure you write UI tests that go through the mission-critical paths and run it on App Center, in the cloud, on all the devices. Find out which devices it doesn't run on. You'll be surprised because we all use Samsungs here, right? And then you run it on App Center and you find out 50% of Android devices suddenly don't run your application. But because we all deal with Samsungs and, it's a real eye-opener, especially with Android Go. Have you seen anyone used any of those sorts of operating systems? It's got 1 gigabyte of RAM. So go down to Woolworths, buy yourself the Optus $79 one, and use that and test your app on that. That's a great one. Plus, you save the business money and time, which all SEOs, CTOs, and management love. I'm just walking around because I want to make Kim work for his money because he's got to move the camera. So obviously, you are redoing the UI. You're redoing the user flow, the navigation, all of those sorts of things. You've got a new UX person. He says, let's take this to where it needs to be. And the CTO goes, yes. And the CEO goes, thank you. The app team goes, wow, this is great. We're going to redo the app. This is fantastic. Oh. So, choose Xamarin Native over everything else. Why choose Xamarin Native over everything else? Like every other technology stack. All right, this is where you break apart your app from Xamarin Forms and put it into a Xamarin Native. Here's the reason why. You can deliver the value to your users quicker than a complete rewrite. You can use a combination of Xamarin Forms and Xamarin Native screens. Your team already knows Xamarin. That's a really big one. And your code shares business logic, the same business logic. And everyone forgets about this. Do you remember when before Xamarin Forms, it was, hey, Xamarin, share your business logic. Let's deliver feature parity. And everyone seems to have forgotten that. You can take your old UI to actual native in the future, if it's needed. So you could take your nibs, you could take your Android XMLs. That's in my way. You could take all of your activities, copy, paste, your fragments, all of that UI logic, and you can do a bit of refactoring, changing cases and moving from Java or Swift backwards and forwards. C# is not that much different to Kotlin and to Swift. I know some people will go, Kotlin's more functional and it's immutable and all those sorts of things. But, a little bit of refactoring. I've done it. It took a month to convert a Xamarin Android to Android native. That was just one person. Took a month. It's pretty quick. And your team is one large one rather than two expensive larger ones. Because if you go native, you will definitely need an iOS team and an Android team, because iOS people don't want to learn Kotlin and Android people think that iOS people are full of themselves. And that usually gets a laugh. But the number one reason is you can deliver value to your users, your customers, quickly than a complete rewrite. The number one reason. How quickly? Very quickly. Well, right, let's put it this way. I work for Scheduler currently, and we've gone from a Xamarin Forms application with a master detail hamburger menu type thing, and we've converted it to a native navigation bar tab at the bottom with the 5 icons. Okay? That's a big task, plus the architecture was spaghetti everywhere. Other screens knew about other screens and services everywhere. Messaging bus, this whole mess. We have just about finished, we're going through a QA, about to release that. It took 3 months. Team of 2 people to go through, pull everything apart. This app has 54 screens. Just check, there's a few things we're like, oh gee, that's broken, let's fix that. But that's the way we viewed it. It's an engineering exercise. We're good at what we do, and we appreciate the time it takes to do it, and the business backs us. I talked to the CEO, says, is this a good idea? I said, this is the best idea. Let's do this piecemeal. 54 screens, that's no small thing to do. On the other side, I worked for another company a year and a half ago or so, and I said to the CTO after a company outing, I said, this is what we should do. We should break it down, Xamarin native, Xamarin Forms, each page is considered for itself, everything's like that. Let's do it this way, piece by piece. And he was like, oh, maybe. But the Xamarin Forms words, and therefore the word Xamarin, were tainted. And the two things are different. So they went, complete rewrite, Swift, Kotlin, let's build it. 2 new teams, all overseas, some over here, everyone's fragmented, trying to build this thing. The poor UX person was like, I don't know what's going on. And when I wrote these slides, which is only a couple of months ago, they still hadn't delivered it. I don't even think it's been released in Australia yet. No, you've given away who you are. So for the last year, everybody in this country has not had an update to their app to deliver new features and meaningful features to their business. It's a big downer. Hope no one's watching me. The cons. This is the cons of not going Xamarin native. The app cannot keep feature parity, of course. You have to hire whole new team members, which takes months. You need 2 new teams rather than to be created. And many of them don't know the business IP. Right? You've been working in your business, you understand, oh, the customer's this, the business means this, oh, you can't do that because of this and this and this, otherwise we get legal. We got these new people come in and go, oh, so what is it that you do? So you've got to upskill them. So that business upskilling, that costs time and money. And the old app has stayed the same for over a year. It's hurting the business reputation, store rankings, reviews, etc. The general population who might be investing will go, well, let's have a look at the app. Plus, the new app is completely different and will be hard to switch to for existing users. Again, hurting the business. Because you go, hey, we've got a great new app, here we go. And they go, this doesn't behave anything like what it used to, and it's changed 100%. Whereas you can change 5% over time, incrementally, and your customers will go along with you on, hey, we've added a new feature. Hey, oh, we've updated this. Oh, isn't this good? And you'll get feedback straight away. Oh, no, that was not good. Oh, let's go back to the way that it was and rejig that. That's always those sorts of, A/B testing as well. And you're able to iterate over features. So was that feature good? Was the business making the good decision? Oh, yes, let's keep going, let's keep going. So the other part is the business is on hold for that year, figuring out what they're doing. And that's the loss of revenue and everything else like that. And then we get to but I just don't like Xamarin anymore. And I don't care what the business or the users need. If that's you as a technologist, time for a new job. Go and work somewhere else and go, hey, I want to do React Native, I want to go and do Flutter. Off you go. But Flutter will have its Xamarin moment as well because Xamarin is mature and Flutter is not. So, you decided to stay after all. Now, how do we do this? How do you make this two things work together? This is what you need to know. The app.xaml.cs is no longer a thing. Deleted. Gone. You'll need a custom navigation service to pass to your view models. Okay, that's pretty straightforward, I suppose. That way, that custom navigation service can say, I need to go to this page, here's a bunch of parameters or a model, and the iOS one will go, hey, create a view controller, stick it in here. The Android one will go, hey, create a fragment, display it here, or navigate to an activity, depending on what's your preferences and what you're doing. You'll have to understand how fragments work on Android if you're not used to that. A week on Pluralsight, you'll be fine. You'll need to understand how view controllers work on iOS. Talk to Kim Philpotts and you'll be fine. And then you'll need to figure out where everything else breaks. And that's things like styles and, what else? Mainly styles. Performance sort of starts to weigh down a little bit. And there's little tricks around that, which I'll share with you. Dog is cheap. Show me the code. All right, this is where things get really scary. Am I going too fast for anyone? Everyone good? Okay, good. I'm not really that great with Visual Studio, just a heads up. I usually use Rider, but Visual Studio is getting better. Where is it? There it is. Okay. Create a new project. We want a multi-platform app. Yeah, blank forms app. Okay, cool. Called this Melbourne Meetup. Yes, I'm doing some reactive UI stuff at the moment, which is quite interesting. Has anyone done any reactive? Anyone doing RX at all? You should so do that. It's awesome. Once you figure it out, it's hard, but it's good. It's exciting. Do you want this to be white, Kim?
So we can see.
Well, yeah. I'm getting there. Hang on. There we go. So Command Shift plus. There we go. Can you see that okay? You don't want a bit bigger? Bigger? You're not that old. Okay. So here we have the welcome to Xamarin Forms classic main page, which we're going to keep there. As you can see, I'm using mFractor as well. Fantastic. Bit of a plug out to good old mate Mr. Robbins. He works beside me. He works with us at Schedulo, so come and join us at Schedulo. We do actual engineering. No takers? No problem. All right. So what we'll do is we'll just run with the Android one to start off with, because it's the one I'm most comfortable with. We have our app.xaml, just going to double check what we've got in here, and there's no resources. Generally, you'll have a style in here, and what you can do is you can turn that into a merged dictionary. Has anyone done merged dictionaries? Separate files that have styles in them? Just take my word for it, it's like a CSS file. You can actually use CSS as well, I believe, at the moment, can you? Yeah, cool. Well, we don't need the app.xaml, so therefore we'll get rid of that. Delete. I hope that was the right thing to do. And then inside the meetup here, I'm going to run my main application. Now, this is where things get interesting. We still need to initialize Xamarin Essentials. Basically, Xamarin Forms, we'll keep that there. We don't need to worry about permissions, do we? Yeah, we'll leave permissions there for the moment. This one here, load application, new application. We don't need any of that anymore because, well, we just don't. We just need the app compat activity. And we don't need that because, well, we're going to manage that stuff manually ourselves. I knew I'd get the key commands wrong. So because we're not trusting Xamarin Forms, we're not letting Xamarin Forms load the application through the new app, which basically wires up the tab layout resource, the toolbar resource. Sorry guys, I made you move again. I'm going to move back. So we now need to tell the view that we're going to load a Xamarin Forms page. And this would generally go inside a navigation service, but it's one page. So we're going to go main page equals new main page, because that's the Xamarin Forms one. Then we need the fragment. I do not want the updates. Thank you. Go main page dot create. It's not going to do it. Fragment. It's an extension method. I think. Yes, it is. It is an extension method. So that gives us our fragment. See, I didn't really plan this part of it because it's better if I actually do it for real rather than just copying and pasting code, right? I can't get back to my other screen because it won't let me. There it is. Right, that's right. I am here. Right. And then what we need to do is we need a support. Has everyone used the support fragment manager? No? Great. So the support fragment manager manages, well, yeah, I'll get this. Fragments and transactions and the backstack. So you can inside your activity, you can replace a frame layout with all the different fragments. So if you're doing a tablet, you can have multiple fragments split into different parts of the screen. Just trust me on it. And in the support fragment manager, begin a transaction. I'm going to replace. I need a resource ID. Resource.id. Now inside here, in our resources, in our layout, we should find our. We don't have one. Oh, okay, cool. We'll add one. New file. Let's see, I need an XML. Main layout. I can just see where this is going to go. This is the toolbar that they wanted us to use. We are not. If I can remember how to do this, the frame layout, layout width, we want to match the parent. Layout height, match parent as well. And then I need everything else to go in there as well. Cancel, sorry, Android ID. ID. At plus ID. I'm going to call this Kim's fragment, just so there's no trickery. And I'm sorry about how bad the layout of the screen is. But basically, that is the shell. And I know it's kind of wrong. I'm just going to find the other. There's a bit of snippet for the XML to actually decorate it a little bit better, because that's probably not going to run. So what that actually does is it's just a frame layout. It takes up the whole screen, and I'm going to say, set this as the content view inside the activity, and then the fragment manager is going to say, let me get the fragment that was generated from the main page, which is Xamarin Forms, and replace it. Does that make sense? No? Cool. Just find this code here. Resources, where is it? That's the bits I'm missing. The bits I'm missing are these bits, which describe the XML namespace. You need those in order for the Android stuff to get picked up, and for the app stuff, which is this. But I won't go into XML for you. Right. So that's all good. Set content view. Oh. So we need to tell the activity to set the content view. Layout dot main layout. I'm big on key commands, but I can't remember the ones for this one. Just want to build this now so that we can see that that's the main layout. It says no. What am I missing? Yeah, but the main layout doesn't show up there, and it should. Yeah, I know that one. That one's Kim's, so it's not showing up there either. Hang on a second. Oh, that way. Just looking at another solution that I've been working on. Here it is. That's right, because it won't build if there's if there's an error. That's the resource issue, or not. Two errors here. Resource layout does not, one for a moment. Namespace, app cannot be found. I've got it on inside on this one.
Do you close that tab?
This one here. That one there? Oh, no, I didn't. Oh, who spotted that?
The video guy.
Very well spotted. There we go. Oh, thankfully. All right, so now it's resolved. That's great. Come on, give me some IntelliSense. Oh, that's right, it won't give me IntelliSense because I'm here. Kim's fragment. There we go. Hooray! And I think I'm just missing like a begin transaction. No, that's right. I'm going to add it to the backstack, which you can just put null into. And then we go commit. Mm-hmm. That's right. Forgot to add the fragment that I'm going to put in there. All right. Cannot convert from app frag to support. Oh gosh, I hate that. Don't you hate that? I'm using the wrong reference. Because this one is a support fragment, not the other one. So there's two different types of fragments and support fragment managers. So I'm using the antiquated one. Using fragment equals I don't know why that's not doing that there. I want to cast it. I'm using a different library. I can't remember which one it is. Take that one out. App. Oh, it's a lot of them. Or all of them. Any ideas, Kim, how to get this up to do this, what it should be doing? It's all right, I'll pull it up this way. There we go. Here's some music I prepared earlier. And there it is. Great. Get rid of that. If we don't need this anymore. Okay. And there's still an error. Ah! Why? Why? I'm not enjoying this at all. How about you guys? Having fun? There's one of these references that is not doing what it should be doing, and I cannot for the life of me remember which one it is. No, that's right. Okay. There's riveting television, I know, as well.
Can you bring up the parameters for the replace tab?
Just trying to convert app fragment to support v4 app fragment. But that should be. Well, I don't know if it's going to work that way. I haven't had to do that before like that. So this one here is Xamarin Forms create fragment. Oh, hang on. There we go. Let's give me the hint. Ah, figured it out. Thank you, I'm here all week. Try the beef. I was like, trying to remember things off the top of your head. So support fragments, the bane of my existence since the beginning of Android development. And we're not even supporting anything that uses that anymore. But anyway, there you go. All right, so if I run this, it should give me the main layout, not the main layout, the main page XAML. My emulator is out of date. Please update by launching Android Studio. It's still going. And this is an Android performance thing. There's a talk about that or something. Do come along to that. There you go. Welcome to Xamarin Forms. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, so as convoluted and confusing as that was, is anyone really confused? It's okay if you are. We created an activity. Well, we didn't create an activity, we hijacked one. We're not using Xamarin Forms activity anymore. We changed it to normal app compat activity, or normal activity, but you want to use the app compat ones, as we have seen. We have gotten the Android excuse me, inside the activity, we have gotten the main page, which is a Xamarin Forms page. I'll just navigate to that. Here we go, it's a Xamarin Forms page. And this extension method, which the Xamarin Forms team use under the hood, creates a support fragment out of that. Basically converts it to Xamarin UI. Sorry, native Android UI. That's the part that does the magic. All your view models, everything that you've done in your Xamarin Forms will still work. The only thing that doesn't work is the navigation, because you're handling that now yourself with your own activity or activities and your own fragments, sub-fragments, or whatever you hear. So depending on the flows of your application, you could say its activity is for authentication. There's a new activity for the actual main flow of the app. You know, it's got the bars at the bottom, and that's all just swapping out fragments. And that's what we've currently done. What's really cool is, yes, Rod?
So all you're doing is putting up the Xamarin Forms page. You're not putting up the Xamarin Forms navigation. So is that correct? That's what you're doing? So you're really just reading the Xamarin Forms down with its code behind. You're executing that within the Android activity or fragment.
Yep. This creates a port fragment, runs this. That's all you need to do, and that Xamarin Forms page will run in any Android application. You could have a complete native one, like Xamarin Native, and then have a Xamarin Forms page and put that in. That could be your settings page, for instance, or something like that. And the reason that we do this is that we take our 54 screens and then we say, the customers really want this main screen replaced. That's the first one we're going to do. This one needs to go now. This one goes.
It's really casting a page to a fragment.
Well, that's what happens under the covers.
Yeah.
So Xamarin, you're still saying Xamarin Forms, give me a fragment. I'm just going to display it here. And you continue on appearing, on disappearing, all those things still work because all of those events are still wired up. Nothing else is broken. Well, got me? It'll sort of look at me weird like I've done some sort of simple voodoo magic, but that's basically it.
So of your 54 screens, you're saying that you can get the app running with the existing 54 XAML screens, and then you just do the ones that you want to do and fix them under native.
Yeah. If we need to do all of them. And what we've even discussed is like, well, you know, these 5 screens are the main ones. The rest are just simple list views and settings and things like that. Just leave them in Xamarin Forms. You know?
It's an interesting point because when you're talking about that to the proverbial CEO, you're confident that you can, and I'm with you, but like you're now being, you can argue we're not using Xamarin Forms. We're using Xamarin Android and Xamarin iOS with a little bit of Forms legacy stuff sprinkled in. Like
Yeah.
sure, I like it. It's not.
Rocket science.
I mean, well, it's not fully converted. It's just, technically true. I guess depending on how you define it.
Yeah. You're basically taking the navigation service that Xamarin Forms takes care of for you and doing it yourself. That is it.
So if you're navigating, you need to actually navigate from a native page to a forms page and back again. How
So with Android, we have there's a method on here called onBackPressed. And my navigation service takes in the activity as a weak reference, because you only have a weak reference activity. And when someone presses on back, or like a back button, or on the UI, not the back button on the device, we just basically go activity on back pressed, and the support fragment manager will go, oh, I've got something on the back stack there. Let's remove that and show the previous screen, because that screen is not destroyed. It's still there. You don't need to manage the back stack. You don't need to manage the state.
This is as long as you continue switching between fragments. What will happen if you switch between activities?
Same. It's all handled for you. That's how Android works. So if you're on an activity and you press on back press, it will go to the previous activity.
And it will load the last fragment that you loaded.
It'll be, it remembers the state. It's got an on-save state method stuff under the covers. It does it all for us.
So when you navigate forward,
Mm-hmm.
you have to do the fragment manager, the transaction.
That's right. And on back, you just go, hey, the back button was pressed, and the system goes, oh, I managed this for you. Same with iOS. It does that for you as well. Yes, Kim. Oh, sorry. I keep forgetting this. You know, other people. Yes. Can I get the other one? Can you go the other way? Yep. Well, then you'd be using Xamarin Forms wrapper and putting in a Xamarin native, like a custom renderer page. What's that called again? I never used them. You could do that. Native embedding. Yeah, yeah. The thing from this is that when I sat with the CEO over lunch, and he's very stressed out, he said, is this going to work? And I had to look him in the eye and say, yes. I'm really good at poker, by the way. And the thing about it is it's about giving options. If the Xamarin Forms has a ceiling. If you've got a couple of people and you're starting up an app and all that sort of thing, it's all great, great, great. But there's a point where you go, hang on a second, I'm fighting against it too much. And that's the same with React Native. Like React Native hit a ceiling for Airbnb and they dumped it and went, let's go native. But for them, they were like, oh, I'm in React Native, I'm in JS land, and the way that behaves, and won't go into anything else about it. How do I, and now I've got to go completely native. How do I do that? Right? Is that a complete rewrite? I don't even know. With this, I can say, hey, we can do this, replace the screens as we need, and then do a little bit of a spike and do some other ones, whatever might be happening. And then, and this is what I think is so important, I don't think there's any reason to go off Xamarin at all. Xamarin native. And if there is a business reason, if there's a business reason, or it's really unperformant for whatever reason, and it's not your fault as developers, you know, then you can go, well, we really need to go native. There could be a reason that there might be some new technology, some new hooks that go in, and React Native can't do it, or Xamarin Forms can't do it, or whatever, or Xamarin can't do it for some whatever reason, I don't know. Emitting reflection some way for iOS is probably the only thing I could think of. You say, we need to go native now because Xamarin Forms, or Xamarin Native can't do it. But I can't see how, because the libraries are one-to-one. So you're basically writing native, but you get the benefit of sharing your business logic, which is the whole premise of what Xamarin was all about originally, that we've all forgotten about. And that's what this talk is about. But if there is, you can take all of that UI code, plonk it all down and say, hey, we don't need to do a complete rewrite. We just need to refactor all of the view models, the pipelines for the business logic, change all the models around. Then you're going to have to like skill up some more teams and stuff and all of that, but that's a business decision. And the key thing is you're providing value to your customers, your users, incrementally over time and continuously. And that's called job security. Got a joke, got a laugh. Yes.
So you're saying that your business logic remains in your view model?
Yes.
So how do you do the binding to Android native screen, like an XML screen?
Sure.
Is it the binding exactly the same as the XAML?
Okay, so this becomes an engineering question. The question was, I'm getting a cue here, when the business logic's still in the view model, and therefore, how do you do the bindings to a native UI? Did I repeat the question properly? Thank you. The answer is yes, you can do that, but you don't use the same Xamarin Forms binding. Well, we don't anyway. So we have opted to use reactive UI as our binding library. And in the view controllers and in the cells and in the fragments and everywhere else, we go bind.thisViewModel.property to this view controller, two-way, one-way, in a fluent, does everyone wear a fluent style? Where?
Well, that's fluent right there, isn't it?
Ah, yes. But I'm thinking about it in a different way. But yes, so you're able to wire up those things the way that you want them to be bound, but you do it in code. So we do all our iOS UI in code. We don't do nibs or storyboards or anything like that because it makes it easier for source control with a team. And we do all of our Android stuff in XML, revealer properties, classic binding. So you could choose any MVVM framework that supports native as well. MVVM Cross is another one. I've used that in natively. Works really, really well. I don't know, I haven't actually tried this, but Android actually has its own data binding library. So you actually type it into the XML, and it will bind to your view model of sorts. It does it at compile time, which is quite cool. So the good thing about it is that you're able to use one framework in a native land as you migrate away from Xamarin Forms. You don't need to, it's not an either or situation.
So can you do this in a gradual fashion? Because you had
Yes.
main page XML in the shared library,
Yes.
plus it's open and then view models presumably.
Yes.
So your Android activity is loading an XML file that's in your shared library.
Yes.
So that's one way of doing it. Is there another step getting closer to native where you actually have the XML in the Android library and its own whatever's required behind that? So is there degrees of migrating to native?
Okay. So the degrees of migrating to native, how do we go from a Xamarin Forms page view in the shared library and bring it into the Android native, correct? The short answer is you just replace it. But the view model can stay up in the shared library. Does that is that kind of the question you're asking?
Yeah, that's the, when do you move, if the business logic is in your view model,
Yes.
which in an EPFM style is a separate file entirely, as opposed to the XAML CS.
Yes, that's right. So you think of your XAML and your XAML.cs main page, that's the page we're going to replace. You delete that. And if you've got business logic in there, shame on you. You should be in a view model. But this project here references that project already. And then you're able to just wire it up because the view model holds the state of your application. These guys have heard me preach about this too much. Your view model never holds a style. Your view model never holds colors. Your view model never does any presentation things at all. And it should stay that way. And if you have got those things in your view models, take them out. Don't have those in there. Just quickly, I just want to show you one more thing, just because I think it's important for no other reason. In my iOS version, actually I don't even need to put it in there, I'll put it in the app delegate. Still need to initialize. There's a few more bits and pieces and steps to go for iOS because it has a a forms application delegate. So you need to expose a UI window, make key and visible. It's about 3 lines, which you can see anywhere. But main page, just for the sake of, here's the main page. This is the Xamarin Forms one. It's the same, isn't it? It's another extension method. View model, is that right? No, that's not going to do it. You're right. So funny. I just want to say in my defense, I've been up since 5 a.m. this morning, dealing with my many children. Okay. So that will create the view controller in iOS from that main page. So that's that common UI that we've all done in our XAML.cs. One goes into a fragment for Android, one goes into a view controller for iOS. Now, I don't know about you, but I think that's pretty cool, the fact that they do that. So Xamarin Forms is pretty cool. Any other further questions? Dirty jokes? Yeah?
I'll try to make it concise so you can hear. Wasn't it always an option to just create a shell controller that you create a custom renderer for and do everything native inside that? And is that fundamentally different in how, I mean, is it more the business implication and the messaging that prevents you from doing that, or is there something else?
Okay, so the question is around why not put the native views inside a shell, inside a Xamarin Forms shell, right? So Xamarin Forms continues to move along and you're just inserting all of the native views inside. You could do that, but from our perspective, we want to be able to delete Xamarin Forms packages.
So your intention on this is not just to sort of sidestep, and it is to actually get rid of as much of the Xamarin Forms stuff as you can over time.
Yeah.
At least that's the idea, is you're moving in that direction. So first you get rid of the overhead of initialization and navigation, and then you start replacing screens as you go.
Yeah, and replacing the navigation is the easy thing. So when you're doing your navigation, you create an interface. You say navigate to such and such view model if you want to do view model based navigation, or if you want to do by pages or screens, then navigate to this page or view, pass in some values. I recommend not passing around models. Don't pass in a page like a Xamarin Forms page. It makes it difficult. So just simple items, simple things like that. We actually have we've architected our app to the moon. It's incredible. There's so many layers. It's just insane. But it's very clear where your code should go, and which is great if you've got juniors and mids that don't understand why. Can't I just reach in and put that in there? And no, it's not that code's responsibility. So why doesn't the view model just reach in and grab what it needs out of the database? No, it's got to go through a business layer. We actually have a business logic layer. Then we go to an API via a database call. And we use reactive extensions all the way along. It's very cool. I didn't think of it. There's another guy smarter than me. Yes, Rod?
So once you switch from Forms to this hybrid native approach,
Yes?
how does it perform?
Okay, the question is, how does it perform once you switch from Xamarin Forms to Xamarin Native? Very, very, very badly if all of your resources, your styles and everything like that are in your app.xaml.cs. So your app.xaml, where you put your global styles and things like that, should be for global styles. We should be putting everything into it. So what we have to do is we actually pulled out every single style, made it its own file, and we inject them at the top as a merged dictionary, and that sped up the performance because it news it up every single time you go into the page. It doesn't treat it as a singleton, because when you run app.xaml, it says at .xaml.cs, it goes, these are my global resources. This is the singleton. This is where everybody knows where to find them. But you don't have an app.xaml.cs anymore because we deleted it. So at the top of every XAML file, you have to put in the styles that you're using for that XAML file. That's the bad side.
Merged dictionaries were only supported fairly recently.
Yes. It was really difficult to try and get this to work without that.
Hopefully Adam knows that we were happy. He's like all about doing that.
Yeah. So it really helps. There's other problems that we've felt across the way when we've got a fragment or a view controller, and we need to reach in and grab the content page elements or grab a view model from that. It's really difficult to do. So a bit of reflection, and we're able to do that. So we're able to reach in and grab the view model. Wouldn't recommend it. Try and get around it if you can, but sometimes reflection is necessary. Yes? The question is, how did it impact the size of the application? It's immaterial. Like it's actually the same, because it's just the same code base, really, fundamentally. We had an interesting situation with the way that it was previously architected by Unity 3D developers. So you can imagine it was a game, basically a business application written like a game, which is why it's taken so much longer. I reckon it would have taken a month otherwise to do it. You still have view models and that sort of thing, so that wasn't terrible. But the way that they managed the pages, they were forcing main page to be overwritten multiple times on startup and trying to manage the state of the application. They actually started writing it with Xamarin Forms 1, and you remember what that was like. So there was a lot of legacy code in there with behaviors around what it used to be like. So we were stuck on Xamarin Forms 3.3 because if we went above that, you couldn't pull the refresh, for instance. It just stopped working because of the way it was handling the life cycle of Xamarin Forms. So as a result, we were able to upgrade to 4.1. We were also able to get rid of a bunch of other third-party libraries that were shoved in because Xamarin Forms didn't support it at the time. So we're actually going down in size because we're getting rid of so many third-party libraries that we don't need to. And there's a lot of people putting in NuGet packages just to solve a problem, whereas you could just type it into an activity or do it natively and get it out of the box. So, and it's challenging to do Xamarin Native. As developers, as software developers, the really number one fantastic option about doing this is you're able to go and do Swift and Kotlin in a native sense because you're doing that kind of activities, fragments, and view controllers. You understand the UI. So you're actually stepping into being more native, and that gives you options for being hired, those sorts of things if you're interested. That's why I was able to do Swift and Kotlin and some Objective-C, which I hate. But I was able to do that. I still ask Kim, hey Kim, how do we do this?
Do we have any more questions?
Well, one final one.
One final one?
I'm assuming this is true, but are you still of the opinion that if you're going to start from scratch, you would use it? Putting aside all of preconceived notions, you would still use Xamarin Forms?
To start off with?
Yeah.
So if I was...
What you have now, like,
Oh.
you know, like, would you still think that Xamarin Forms would do okay, assuming you could just do some special stuff with custom renders, or are you saying, I mean, what you didn't really talk about, like, the thing that made you decide if it was just the CEO's opinion, however misinformed it was, or is it about a particular tipping point?
Yep. So it's about, would I start with Xamarin Forms again now if I was starting a new project or the same project from scratch, correct?
Sure.
Yeah. The consultancy word is it depends. Okay, So it comes down to this. When Schedulo started, I'll take Schedulo as a point, they had enough funding for 2 guys to do it. Xamarin Forms is a perfect candidate for that. They got Series B funding just recently. Microsoft's one of the investors. It's pretty cool. Well, their startup branding thing that they're doing. So, sidetracking. If someone came to me and said, "Hi, we're starting up a startup and we've got billions of dollars," so just go native. We'll hire great iOS developers, we'll hire great Android developers, we'll get them aligned. We're going to pay $180,000 each person. I want 6 iOS ones, I want 6 Androids, and let's do feature teams. So that's when it says take multidiscipline teams and let's build the features out. That's the way I would do it if you've got lots of money. If you haven't got lots of money, choose Xamarin Forms. But you can choose Xamarin Forms and then jump off and go to native. The question for our CEO is that he's like, okay, we're really well funded now. Xamarin Forms had let them down historically. Bad architecture, Xamarin Forms breaking with FFmpeg, those sorts of things, which made his big clients, our big clients, go, this app is terrible. Your company is terrible. You guys don't know what you're doing. We'd like to cancel our service agreement with you. The CEO goes, okay, we need to keep as many people on board as possible. So you turn around and say, hey, let's go Xamarin native. We can fix things and we can do that really quickly and we won't lose all of the customers over the next year and a half and the app will improve over time and you can have your faith and trust that we know what we're talking about. And then you just got to do it. And that's the reason. There's many different ways that you could skin this to suit your particular business.
Hey, Clinton.
Yes.
I've got one last question from the chat.
Oh.
And that is, if you have 2 native teams, who's creating your shared service APIs?
2 native shared service APIs. Okay. It's a really interesting question because where we're working currently, we're not in charge of our APIs. We have an API backend team for that. So I'm imagining the person's coming up from like, well, the API is in the same project perhaps, and what am I in charge of? If you've got 2 different teams, you can afford a backend team to write the APIs. That's just my viewpoint. But if you've got Xamarin Forms, hey, I can write my web API there. I can talk to Identity Server. I know Entity Framework. Put it into Blazor. I can do everything. Well, that's supposed to be a joke too. But. Any other questions from anyone?
No more questions.
Thank
So
you.
the pizzas have arrived. That was excellent, Clinton. So everyone,
Thank you.
and thank you especially for coming down from Brisbane for this. That was very, very much appreciated.
It's a pleasure.
Pizzas have arrived. The reason for this is for networking, so make sure you talk to someone you haven't spoken to before. Please.